7:40.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast
The voice of the creative economy.
with Vincent Heeringa.
Vincent Heeringa from Ideologue magazine and all the other magazines under his leadership as well. G'day there, Vincent. How you doing?
Good morning, Wammo.
Today we're talking about exports and specifically we're talking about rewarding export marketing.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if people appreciate the perilous state of our exporting economy.
It's perilous?
I'll just give you two statistics that I find amazing and disturbing. One is that since the 1960s, as a proportion of our economy, we're not exporting anymore. In fact, we're exporting less since the 1960s, which is an amazing thought when you think about how connected the world has become through telecommunications and through fast shipping and airlines and so forth, that you would think New Zealand has become more connected to the world. And in some ways it has, but in financial terms, it is less connected now than it was in the 1960s.
So are we exporting less in financial terms or in actual physical amount of exports? I mean, which stat is it?
Well, in gross volumes, of course, it's gone up because the economy, the world economy has grown and our economy has grown. But as a percentage, we now export less than 30% of our economy relies on exports, whereas that was above 30% in the 1960s. And the second statistic that I find pretty amazing and disturbing is that we import 32%. The 32% of our economy is represented by imports. So we consistently, decade after decade, bring in more than we export out.
And that's due to that connected world, isn't it?
Yeah, there's something fundamentally wrong with our entrepreneurs or business people or the way that we imagine making a buck in the world. And the reason that New Zealand has such high personal indebtedness is because the only way that you can fund that more in than out is through debt, and that's why we don't have New Zealand banks, and why as individuals we have a higher debt burden compared to even say Australia.
Yeah.
So export is really important, and there have been lots of attempts over the years to encourage export, and the government in particular works incredibly hard. And we are often critical of the government, but this is one area where they have consistently, through trade and enterprise, tried to stimulate interest in export as an ambition for New Zealand people, New Zealand businesses.
Yep.
With some success, it might be added. But the journey continues, and one of the initiatives that we have started with New Zealand Marketing Magazine is a program around specifically export marketing as a discipline. And so we've got a few initiatives underway to encourage not exporting as such, but the actual discipline of export marketing, which is a really unique skill.
So that marketing New Zealand products overseas, specifically?
Products and services.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Whether it's high-tech manufacturing, whether it's agricultural exports or design or architecture or fashion, it really doesn't matter what the products are. I mean, it makes sense for our products to be high value, high intelligence, but the fact is that we still make the bulk of our money out of milk powder.
Is there anyone that you can see right now that's doing it really well?
In terms of exporting?
And in terms of marketing our exports?
Well, I think our wine industry has got to be held up as the most successful in that regard, because they offer very short history. We're really only talking 20 or 30 years. They have built up an incredible reputation and also an ability to achieve margin in a very, very competitive market. So, the wine industry really is kind of exactly the kind of thing I'm talking about, where we build off our natural base, which is the soil and the air and the water,
Yeah.
etc., that falls from the sky. But we have built around that a premium story, and you think particularly of Sauvignon Blanc and now Pinot Noir have the ability to cut through at that premium level.
So we value add. I tell you why I always I shed a tear whenever I see raw just logs, forestry logs sitting on the port.
It is a shame,
and being
isn't it?
shipped off, because that is as basic as forestry gets.
Yeah.
When really we could be making some pretty cool stuff out of that.
Yeah, well, and
upselling
even
it.
worse, Wammo, a lot of that gets turned into MDF, not into so much into timber as just sort of pulp. Which is a reflection, I guess, of a whole bunch of things. I mean, it's just raw, naked economics, that the cost of felling indigenous forest in Russia and China is so much cheaper than it is than exotic forests in New Zealand. It also reflects, I think, this kind of lack of, I can't say lack of imagination, because New Zealand historically is a very creative place, but it actually gets down to the commercialisation of those ideas, and that's where export marketing, I think, is such a missing discipline in New Zealand. I should really qualify that to say I haven't exported a single thing in my life, so I'm really respectful of companies that are out there marketing to the world. It's a very difficult task. And just quickly, Wammo, the three things that we're doing, the Marketing Awards has a new export category, so if anyone is out there who is an exporter, please do enter that category. It's a new one, so there won't be many entries, so you stand a good chance to win. We're also starting with the Marketing Association, which is our partner in these awards. We're starting a kind of an expert peer group. They call them special interest groups, all around export marketing, and we want to build up a sort of a database of knowledge and contacts, etc. And then we're also creating a sort of a mini book for aspiring exporters. So three cool initiatives in that space.
Great, sounds like a wonderful initiatives. Thanks so much, Vincent Heeringa, for telling us all about it.
Okay, can I just quickly drop in a word to remember our friend Paul Reynolds?
Absolutely.
So tragically, Paul Reynolds, a internet pioneer and frequent contributor to the airwaves about the internet, passed away of leukemia in the weekend. Surprise to everyone. I saw Paul every day because we were in the same building together, and he was a contributor to Ideologue magazine and the Ideologue website. Absolutely will be missed. A terrific guy, lovely Scottish brogue accent that we will not hear again, and so tributes to Paul and his family, a terrible loss.
I'm certainly going to miss his ideas that always made you think and challenged the norm as well.
Yeah, and such a good-humoured fellow, such a lovely temperament, and a real shame.
Certainly a huge loss to the whole community, I think.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Vincent.
Pleasure.
It is Vincent Heeringa. You can find him blogging also up at ideologue.co.nz.